Hello, my name is Paul Marsh and welcome to episode 10 of Writing Bots using the Microsoft Bot Framework. Today I'm going to extend a little bit on where we left off on episode 9, which was talking about suggested actions. And now we're going to try and apply those with a bit more of a real world example. So just as a little reminder, we were talking about using suggested actions here, which were basically card actions. And then we apply them to a prompt, which allows us to actually push that suggested action. So here we're going to say travel north, and travel north appeared as a suggested action at the bottom of the web chat control, or the emulator in our case. So now we're going to swap back to our actual Maybot, and if you recall all the way back when we go into the Maybot, she'll ask, shall I expand on that? And then what we expect to get back is a yes or a no answer. So let's just run that just so we can remember how this thing is supposed to work. Well, I am using Visual Studio 2019 now. If you detect a strange set of colors and things, then that's why. So let's just pop the emulator up. See if I say hi to start the... So let's just restart this conversation. Type in hi. Oh, actually, let me type in something more useful. I like... Can't type. What am I doing? The health service. So here we are, we're coming into the prompt. Shall I expand on that? We're going to run that. And then you can sort of type anything you want, but we want to type in yes. We expect that to be the answer. And we can see that our result, if it equals yes, then thanks, I will. And then we go around again until we say no, and then we'll drop out of the dialog. So that's all pretty simple stuff. But it's not amazingly obvious what you need to do. You know, perhaps you wouldn't type in yes or no, or in more advanced, more complicated questions, the answer wouldn't be as obvious as yes or no. So how would we deal with that using our suggested actions? So if we come back to our prompt, we can see that we've got our prompt here, and we know what we can do with suggested actions. So if we pull back to our Scratch dialog, I'm just going to lift out these suggested actions from here. Oops, go back to the right place, put some suggested actions in here, and this one we're going to say the title is going to be yes, and the value we're going to keep as yes, and the other one is going to be no. So that's all pretty safe stuff. Let's just get rid of that to make it a little bit clearer. So yes or no, and we're going to, as we know, put that as a suggested action. So new suggested actions, and the physical buttons, cards, actions. Get there in the end. Doesn't look right. Should be actions. That's better. Suggested actions. Right. So actions. Come on. Right. So now we will get, hopefully, a better UI. So the emulator starts running. I like the health service. Thanks for asking about how shall I expand on that. So now we get a yes or no come up, which is a much nicer interface. So you can type in no, and we're going to get the no is going to come in. What does a prompt result? It says no in it. That's great. So everything is kind of working as we'd expect. Right, now let's make this a little bit more advanced. So let's come back into that dialog again. So I like the health service. So I expand on that, and you go something else. So we're going to come in here, and we're just looking for yes. So we're going to assume that what they typed in was no, and that's not really the greatest interface in the world. So how can we improve on that? So you may realize that when we create this text prompt, you may have spotted that there's something called a validator. And this is really handy for verifying a user response. So if you remember in the waterfall steps, we'll go through these steps one at a time. And the only thing we can really do to change these steps is to either completely quit the dialogue or to restart the dialogue. So if we're here, we can't easily go back to here. I mean, you can, or technically there are ways of doing it, but you shouldn't really. You can go from here and you can restart, which takes you all the way back to here. Now, we could implement something in here that says, oh, if they didn't enter yes or no, then go all the way back and go through it. And that would work, but it's a bit sort of clumsy. It's a bit difficult to get your head around, and practically when you have a lot of waterfall steps, a lot of different states, it's a bit of a headache to try and maintain. So what you can do, what I suggest you do, is come in here, create a new type of text prompt, and let's call it the yes/no prompt, and add what's called the validator on there. Put it in the right place, it would help. So let's call this the yes/no validator, and just let Visual Studio do its thing. So it's going to complain. So we'll just say, all right then, generate a method for me. So that creates this concept here. So we've got the prompt validator context and your average cancellation. Now I recommend that you put this near where you're going to use it at least the first time. So we're going to use it in the prompt for next question. So let's just put the validator near it so we can see what's going on, which it happens it is. And then instead of saying ask for text, we're going to use this prompt. Now what this is going to do is it's going to send in our prompt, what the user enters as in this form of his prompt context, so we can verify it. So we can say, let's get the value out of this. So var user response equals prompt context. It's been recognized. And the reason these are recognized is because you can get different validator contexts that are already built in, so things like numbers, whereas this is a text one. So the recognizer part can already do some of the verification for you. This is just a plain text one. So then we can say user response, does it equal yes? Now here's another thing for people that may be a bit new to .NET. You can just say yes, which is fine, but what happens if you use capital Y, or you could type in all in caps or some of it in caps? And really we don't care, we just want to know that the word yes is in there. So what you can do is use this equals and use it together with a string comparison and say, I don't care about the case. The other part of the culture, that is something slightly more subtle. So different languages have slightly different values for letters. And basically what we're also saying here is, can you please try and ignore those different values? So something that's got, say, a hat or an umlaut on it, you can sort of get rid of that and just try and compare it with the kind of underlying letter as a human you'd recognize it as. And that's sort of what we're doing here. So whichever way you want to type in yes, basically, is how we're going to evaluate that as the word yes. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So equally, we want to say it has to be no. So it's going to be yes or it's a no. That's what we're interested in. So we can just say var is valid. Right. And all we have to do now is return, is it valid or not? Because this is a task, this is defined as a task, and we haven't actually done any async await type stuff in here, we can't just do return user response directly. It should moan. Why is it moaning? cannot convert string to task. Right? So there's a little trick you can do with tasks. Just do from result. That should resolve that little piece of sugar. Why is it saying it's, oops, wrong one. Helps if it's the Boolean. Right, so we should be in a better place now. So let's just run that. Get the emulator back up again. I like the health service. Expand on that. Blah, blah. Shall I expand on that? So it's going to keep on asking that. Let's type in real rubbish. Shall I expand on that until we say no. And then we're out. Well, that's good. So let's just run that through again. Right, health service. Expand on that. So now we can just type in, still type in the word no. So you don't actually have to press the suggested button. It's just interested in the text no. And just to prove a point, I like the health service. We can still use our, just check our equals is working. So type no, shout no. It still works. Well, that's good, but this kind of repeated, shall I expand on that, shall I expand on that, shall I expand on that? It's a bit overly robotic, even for the Maybot. So there is some built-in help with this. So if we come back to our prompts, so we've got our main prompt here, and we're setting that on the prompt options. So when we prompt for yes, no, this is the prompt we're going to use. There's also something called a retry prompt. Now it's basically exactly the same thing. I'm just going to copy all of that, except the text in here, we can add a little bit of a hint about what's going on. So we can say, sorry, I didn't understand that response. Shall I expand on that? Yes or no? So we're going to come in here, so I expand on that, so it's just a natural language thing. And then if they get it wrong, we can add a little bit of extra help to explain why we're stuck at this particular point. So let's run that now. I like the health service. So expand on that, blah. Sorry, I didn't understand the response. Shall I expand on that, yes or no? So now we're giving a bit more contextual help to the user, so the whole experience is a little bit better. Now it doesn't have to end there though. If this was quite a complicated thing that we were validating, let's say we wanted to do something that was slightly more time consuming, or we just want to give a bit more of a prompt, a bit more of a hint, or perhaps we want to still not robotically say the same thing every time, we do have an opportunity to do that in the validator itself. So let's take a look at how we might do that. So back to the validator. So we're in here. Now we do still have access to the prompt, but let me just show you a couple of little gotchas. So in here we got, let's make this async now. So we need to we can just return that. And what we'll do is we'll say await prompt context, send activity. Let's just say please wait. I'm checking. So we're going to do that. Just send it off, and then we'll send the prompt afterwards. So let's see what happens. So we come back to our bot. I like the health service. Thanks for asking. Shall I expand on that? Blah. Please wait, I'm checking. Oh, where's our prompt gone? So it turns out that this is a little bit more tricky than maybe we first think. So if you want to send an extra prompt in here, there's kind of two ways you can do it. So let's just first of all show you the slightly simpler way. So we can go to the prompt context dot options, reply, retry prompt, and then we can add. We can just sort of do the same thing again. So maybe we could let's just change the text with the retry prompt to please wait, I'm checking, and then I didn't understand that. So we're just changing the text on the retry prompt here. So let's see what happens. Not sure where we left here. Okay, I like the health service. Shall I expand on that? Blah. Please wait, I'm checking. So I didn't understand your response. So that sort of works, but it's not great, because what we're trying to do in this particular example, where you're saying I'm checking, is you've got a delay. So there's some kind of service that you're calling, and you just want to notify the user that you're doing that check. But in fact, what we're doing at the moment is we're just sending out the one message. So we're not achieving that at all. So for example, if we come back here, what we really want to do is say, please wait, I'm checking, do some long running activity, and then eventually do the prompt. So putting it all one together is kind of a little bit annoying. It's not really going to do that for us. So really, that's not, unfortunately, it's not really an option at this point in time. Yeah, you just can't really do that. The only real alternative you've got to this is if you want it to be a bit more modularized, then what you could do is send them as a set of activities, and that will get around this problem. So if you do await, in fact, let's just take this one. I'll just steal this line. So we could do await, and we could do send activities. Now this takes in an array of activities, so we want to do a new activity array, and in that activity array we're going to do our send our message. So we use a message factory to create a new activity, just a text message. Please wait. Well, actually, we can't do the please wait. Just put some message here. Useful. Okay. Let's just finish that one off. Make that one go away. Why is this complaining? Text does not. Really? Does not exist in message factory. Oh, static. And then what we can do is just replace the retry prompt in here. So we can go prompt context dot options dot retry prompt. So just to sum up what's going on here, when we tried to send a message on its own from here, that didn't work, because the validator in effect can only send one set of activities. As soon as it sends one and then tries to send the other, it just fails. You don't see the retry prompt. So this is a sort of little workaround where you can say, well, okay, I know I'm only allowed to make one response, but actually I can group a set of responses, create an array of these responses and send them all at once. And hopefully that will work. So let's have a look at this. So yeah, type in blah. So I've got a separate message now, so it's not like we did before when we concatenated the two together, i.e. we just had one message with a carriage return at the end of it. This is now genuinely two separate messages, so some message here and then our retry prompt. So we can get some way to doing what we want to do, but again, in that long-running scenario, Validator just isn't going to cut it. You'll have to come up with a better concept or go around a loop, or probably more likely create a new dialogue to do that, which is probably the best way of doing that. But anyway, so hopefully you can see that the validator has some use, and it helps you to make the logic of your flows much easier if you want to try and ensure that the user enters something that you want them to enter, and be very obvious about that and give them chances to reply or respond to that. One last thing, hopefully you can see, you might be able to guess that this will work, is if we come back to our validator, if we wanted to make this retry prompt a bit better, a bit less robotic, then we could, let's come here, let's just get rid of that for a second, come back to our retry prompt, let's just grab that. We're going to need suggested actions, aren't we? Well, actually, yeah, okay, let's take the suggested actions. I was saying we could just reuse them, but let's just make this a bit clearer, a bit more obvious what's going on. So we could put something in here like, let's create some random responses and say new string array of a couple of these things. So we could say sorry, I didn't understand the response. Can you try again? Put space at the end of these things. What? Just put some things in there, and then we can save our a response equals random responses, and then I can never remember the random generator. Is it something like new random? So it's a new random seed, so we don't need to seed it. And we just do next. So non-negative integer is less than the specified minimum. So we can do random responses dot length. I think that's right. Always a little bit concerned about using random. Always seem to make a mistake when I use this. So a response equals that, and then we just tag that onto the front of that. So apparently I've made a mistake somewhere. Okay. So new activity. And now we're back to not using an await. So we need to do the task trick again. from results. Take the async off. Don't need that now. Tidy that up a bit. Okay, let's see how we get on with this. I'm bound to have got this wrong. I always get that wrong. Let's see. Maybe this is the one day I've got it right. Can you try again? Try again. So I didn't understand the response. You can see we're getting different random responses now, so make it a little bit more human-like. So that's the validator. I hope that's been helpful. Again, if you want to subscribe, then great. If you want to leave some comments about what else you'd like to know, then that would be really helpful too. Thank you.